Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is the Z.I.P podcast. This is the Zanders Inspirational podcast. I'm your host, the great Upbeat Zanders, and we are actually joined today by the great Bill Behrens. Bill, I don't know if you've got any of the other like nicknames or like Gene always gets super ill with me because I don't know his nicknames and I feel bad about it, but I don't know any of your nicknames. I'm sorry.
Well, that's all right. I don't necessarily have any nicknames.
Perfect. That's perfect. That's kind of me too. I'm not really much of a nickname guy. And I mean, like you and I both know how bad I am with having a gimmick or anything useful. So
Well, the only time I had a nickname, well, I had family nicknames which are unimportant. But when I was in college, Mike Sager, who's a tremendous author, and has done a diversity of books and articles, and his article about John Holmes created Boogie Nights. He's actually a real guy. He used to call me Billy Bones. So for a while, it was that was my nickname around my fraternity and around Emory University. But that was like decades ago. So who cares?
no, decades ago. That absolutely matters. So that's like the only nobody's ever given you like a wrestling nickname. I mean, I understand family stuff, but was there ever like a wrestling nickname?
No, I mean, when we first started doing Wild Side, I was always called the damn Yankee, which was always entertaining. Yeah, I was born in Vermont and I lived in the Northeast until third grade, but I grew up in Miami.
Okay.
But I was the damn Yankee because I don't have a Southern accent unless I affect one.
Well, you don't. Well, in Miami, there is no such thing. Like whatever you have is what you have. Like there is no.
And I grew up in a different Miami that exists now. The Miami that exists now is nothing like the Miami I was in. All we had was everything was just being built at the time. It was still very weirdly rural, not really rich yet. We lived in the largest building that had been built to date. It was a 21-story building, the Brickell Townhouse. And that was like the biggest thing that existed. Okay. And it was only like half-ass built because I ended up working in engineering, and the engineer was the guy that ran the building was one of our friends. And he was constantly like having to, just figure out how to keep it working. So one of those kind of things. But it was cool. Miami was great back in the day. Other than, we used to play football against the Cuban guys in the neighborhood. And every once in a while that got violent because they were bigger.
Yeah. I was about to say, I'm sure.
And I was the biggest guy on my group of kids from our neighborhood. And that's not good.
Okay, and you're what now? I was about to say, how? So you're the tough guy of your neighborhood?
Yeah, I'm the quarterback, the best player on the team, and the tough guy back when I was an athlete. So
that's hilarious. Back when you were an athlete. Hey, you're still an athlete. I've seen you do leg drops within the past 10 years that are better than
actually,
a lot of guys.
You missed me doing I took a second rope bulldog basically from Shane Marks that hurt like crap.
Okay, let me and that was
audio, and that's at 65. I still had to have a match at 65.
And I didn't want to ask your age because I'm Southern. I'm a gentleman. I am a violent gentleman, but I am still a gentleman. I don't ask people's ages. I've learned very quickly not to do that. But like every time you tell me like, hey, I took a big bump, every single time, Bill, I say, please stop taking bumps. Like you're gonna explode.
Well, I mean, I have a lot of people say, my mom says that all the time, but she's 80.
My mom does too. My mom tells me that all the time, but I'm only 32. So
yeah, this may be dumb, but A, I enjoy our business, and B, I feel alive when I'm doing shit. So if I'm not doing shit, if I'm just, some guy sitting around playing on a computer,
I understand. No, I've had that thrill.
The fun thing about wrestling, which first 20 years of my life in business was primarily being TV boy, putting TV shows on TV stations that led into wrestling. And for the last 20 years, give or take, I've been exclusive in wrestling in everything I've done. I got out of TV because the way I did it changed. But the reason I ended up in wrestling, which simply happened, it was not a plan. It simply kept happening to me and people kept bringing it to me, but I had always thought that wrestling was the greatest art form that in my life, the thing I really appreciated. Other people have different things. I was always good in music. I always liked music. I always liked various other things, and was involved in those. But something about wrestling, as an art form, just appealed to me.
I did
Other
jujitsu
than
and other,
stand up,
yeah,
other than improv comedy,
agreed.
it is a totally unique art form because regardless of real, fake, and all those other aspects of discussion, the reality is it is the one of the rare forms where, regardless of any backstage discussion, it will inevitably be improvised
Yeah,
and done for the first time 99% of the time.
yeah,
Rarely is a professional wrestling match actually rehearsed.
yeah,
There are times, particularly when non wrestling people are involved, that there's a rehearsal. We want to go through this shit. We want to work it out.
yeah.
Like most of Hook's matches in AEW early on and likely going forward are probably worked on in advance to hide what he doesn't
Yes,
know.
yeah, and we're gonna get to the later AEW stuff because I want to talk about like this is mainly like for Bill Behrens because I'm more interested. Like you say, 20 years ago, how long have you been in the business?
Wrestling, I started actively in 1993.
93.
So we're
Okay.
about 30 years in, give or take. I was helping wrestling people in the late 80s, which is
Mhm.
how I got introduced to Jerry Jarrett, which has led to Jerry calling me out of the blue, wanting me to help his son become a promoter. Jeff didn't want to be. I had to change the deal. And then Jerry said, well, take my TV show out and see if you can get it on TV because you're doing other stuff anyway. And I was always multiply employed. I was an officer of, at the time, about 5 companies because I subcontracted myself to various people to do various things.
Hey, hang on. So hang on, because the words. So basically, you decided you were going to be an agent for a bunch of companies. Is basically where you
Well,
kind of like,
yeah, that's a way to say it.
yeah.
Basically, I went to law school. I because that's what I always wanted to do, and then I got there and realized that it sucked.
Oof, it's
So I
hard,
Yeah, but I
difficult.
still loved
It's
aspects
it's
of it.
it's
But I
very
knew that
interesting, but it's very difficult to keep up with. You think wrestling's difficult? Keep up with the law. Like,
yeah,
it's so
and
difficult.
it was mind numbing at some
Yeah.
level because my skill ended up being the only A I got was oral argument. So
Mhm.
the reality was I realized that all I would be able to do is defend people who were guilty,
Yeah.
and I'd be miserable and want to kill myself. So I quit law school after first year, told my dad, okay, thank you for helping pay for this shit, but let's
Thank you. I'm
stop.
sorry.
And I started working at a TV station, and that was fun. And then I went back to Atlanta, and I had been writing for various people. I was a music
What did you
writer.
write? What? So you wrote music,
Well, I was a music writer, a comedy writer at one point.
comedy? Because I do want to talk comedy, but I still want to talk about how you're kind of like my
Yeah,
first note is let's talk about how you were in like a major player in Agents and how it kind of led to you being on TV. I don't know if
yeah.
it was
Well,
by
eventually
happenstance,
the
but
TV thing spun, and I worked for my family. Then I quit that job. I quit my family at Christmas one time, and then I moved on. And but I got hired, and this has been true of my life, thank God. Literally, is that I've never applied for a job.
it's crazy.
Um, I've one time went in and said, "Hey, are you hiring?" And that's when I was ended up as a manager of a U-Haul dealership.
Okay,
But
those are always the
but
better
otherwise,
stories.
I've never submitted for anything. Things have just happened, and wrestling just happened. I got called by Jerry Jarrett to put his son in business as a promoter. It didn't work out. Put a TV show on. Ended up working with USWA from '93 to '97. Idiots had bought it, put it out of business. All of a sudden, I needed a place to put a TV show because WWF at the time was distributing my show, and they were paying me to distribute a show I didn't own, which is how Jerry Jarrett got me paid. So I then all of a sudden had no place to put the show I didn't have anymore because USW went out of business, and I needed it in 3 days. I went to Bert Prentice. We started in business. I did that for 2 years, and then my syndication became Wild Side and Anarchy, and on it went. And that side of it diminished over time because the mechanism I had to get the TV show on a bunch of stations changed as the ownership of stations changed. So what I started as, I got into wrestling primarily because I was TV boy. I then segued into, I'm a terrible promoter. I can book, as I actually booked USWA
I was
for a
gonna say,
period of
like,
time.
you're like, so and this was like a big
But
Ace
that's how I
Haven.
got into realizing I developed talent.
Yeah,
And I started with Shane Helms, Shannon Moore, Christian York,
yeah.
and Joey Matthews in Nashville. And that was the beginning. And then after that, it led to everything else because Wildside was a development territory, regardless of WCW making one.
Well, you
And
have
that's
like
and that's everything I've always wanted. I want to perpetuate our business, and without talent, you have no business.
agreed wholeheartedly, and talent that knows like how to navigate it correctly because there is a navigation process. But like, not only do you like you know how to like navigate the process, you also do something that a lot of people don't do whenever they're trying to give advice and trying to be like a good agent. You watch the stuff. Like if you're there, you're watching it. Like you always you watch your guys' products and you know your guys' products.
And then I normally insult only one or two things because I
It,
learned that
well,
if you overwhelm anybody, even the people that want to listen to you with more than one or two things, nothing will get fixed.
you
But if
also
you
don't
focus on one or two things, you usually can fix it.
employ duds though. You can kind of see who's
I,
got that. Like it
I'm a
is.
pretty good judge of people with talent. I always thought you had talent, for
Well, I
example.
appreciate it. I didn't really put much effort into it, which is, kind of where my upbeat
Actually,
process
you
for a
did for a
while.
while, and you did a good job when you were doing it.
Yeah, I appreciate it. That's is that your one compliment? Because I'm hoping let's get to the insults after the podcast ends in a
No, the only time you messed up was with Marcus changing the one spot and doing the cutoff on the
yeah,
ring apron before
yeah.
going to another high spot to get
uh,
to Jeff
That
Cobb.
man, that was a tough time.
Yeah,
that was a real panic
I
moment.
was freaking
You weren't
pissed
even
off
there.
because I was on the way back and y'all could have called me. And
Yeah,
it's not just you,
yeah,
freaking Dominic could have called me,
yeah.
and I would have gone, "No, you dumbasses." But the weird thing is, you both made that stupid mistake. Um, with the proper intention because you had watched a previous match and seen that they used a cutoff that was
Mhm.
similar to what you wanted to do to go into the high spot that was leading to the double down leading to Jeff Cobb. And so you basically said, let's change this so we don't do the same thing because then we're being good wrestlers.
I've been screaming at the sky about it for 3 years, Bill. but like that. By the way, that's gone. That entire match, poof, disappeared. There's no record of it. They
No, I
already
have it.
do you. So, by the way, I will give.
I have
I will
everything.
cash
I
app you.
maintain a
I will.
museum.
Uh,
I still have a diversity of your matches saved.
See, that's terrifying because, like, I don't. I have old Boaz stuff that I always tell Gene that one day, if like everybody's like, "Hey, I really want to watch you in one of the scariest locations of all time," then maybe we'll do like a live commentary on it. But people who have a match, I don't know. It's like I can't even listen to my own podcast because I'm just so I hate hearing my voice. I hate seeing myself. It's a whole thing.
I thought you did good work when we worked together at Peach State.
We had fun.
I thought that was a good run in there.
That was a great
You
time.
looked good. You were doing fun stuff.
Well, we had the
You know,
big we had the
you and
big
Ace
cage
actually were
payoff.
a decent team.
Well, we had
So,
the big cage payoff whenever like you were involved in that one because that was whenever you had Logan and Tommy and
yes,
O'Hagan.
when I was
And
Georgia Manager of the Year, tying
yes,
Jeff
you
T. Bill.
were. I always remind people every time they come on there. Y'all remember that Peach Day time with no footage and no, really hard like good editing capabilities was really smoking a lot of people's tails and
Well,
would have money.
We had Pierce's stuff.
You know, So, like I said, like no content that was actually. I mean, he's not going to listen to this, so I'm not that worried about it. No content that I could actually show to anybody to impress. Bill, you didn't say that. You were giving the thumbs down if anybody was asking, listening to this audioly. He was totally not saying what I just said about Pierce. Totally me. But yeah, no, we had a great time, and we gave people a good run for their money, and it was simple. And like even everything you did, like you had fun stuff with because were you with God, I know you were with the Tommy and
Logan,
them,
Kyle, Tommy Too Much.
and you like
Oh, and I had what's his futz? Ah, crap, I can't think of his name. Other Alabama kid.
O'Hagan.
Yeah, O'Hagan. Yeah. Had
Yeah.
him briefly.
Yeah.
Had Gladiator Jeremiah, Slimmy.
Yep. Yeah. He's making some waves, isn't he?
And America.
America. Yeah, old America. What a great time for Peach State. So is Slim J's making like appearances now again, right?
Slimmy's doing well. Sanjay Dutt, who he and I go way back.
Yeah.
And he got in touch, asked about Slimmy. I got Slimmy hooked up. He went down, did Dark, and they made it into an entire thing. And he's now in a group.
Yeah.
And he's going to go back to. He's going to do the Minnesota show. I think that's August 10. And it's a group with Ari. I think Tony likes it because it's the concept is Trustbusters, which is here's the Ari is the who's Sean Devari's brother.
Okay.
Ari is the rich kid, the rich foreigner.
Okay.
If you'll pardon the expression, that concept, which is basically Tony. So it's Ari is basically Tony is the way I'm looking at why Tony likes it, because that's how Sanjay pitched it. And then they brought in the sort of big guy that was let go from NXT and Slimmy. And I was at the building that they're running today in Atlanta, Duluth, and Jerry Lynn came up out of nowhere and was saying that he had aged in a couple of matches and that Slimmy had done fantastic. So yeah, that's good.
So it always cracks me up because like Marv was on here a couple of weeks ago and we didn't really talk about you. We talked about Sal briefly, but it always amazed us whenever you'd walk in.
If Marv is on the show, you've got to talk about Marv. Come
on. That's true. We briefly so I mentioned Sal and like Marv shut it off. It was quite very stereotypical of Marv, and he's not going to listen to this, so I don't care if I'm saying anything for about it. And he would agree with me. He would say,
"You better hope that all these people are listening. You have to build up your following."
Well, no, they don't. It doesn't matter. I could put them over every time, and they're still not. Marv is not going to follow. He doesn't know how. He did it in his floor, talking into an earphone.
Marv is remarkable because he's both retired and busy.
It's crazy. He's the busiest retired person.
He's like an extra for everything WWE does, and he's played every extra role that you possibly can play.
And he
has been a doctor, lawyer, and an Indian chief. I'm convinced.
He is also the same guy that'll also tell you as soon as right after he gets done, is like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm gonna have to quit. Every time. He loves wrestling and he hates it at the same time for whatever reason, for reasons that don't make any sense.
Well, here's the reality: if you're going to continue to collect wrestling action figures, you pretty much are stuck. There is no escape.
Yeah,
because you no matter what you try to do, no matter how far you try to distance yourself from the game, you have it right there, and it's important to you. So he can't run away.
Is it something that's like he's afraid, like he knows he can make a difference? Because we talk, like I've talked about promoters always wanting to like wrestle and like put themselves, and because they think that it's going to promote, and I get the concept of it. But like, is it a mindset of like, if I'm so invested into it to the point where I collect action figures, I think I can make a difference?
Oh, I think there's an element of wrestling of people that are just purely fans and want to play. And it's not necessarily the best part of our business. Yeah. But in terms of talent,
Marv's also one of the better jobbers that I've seen. Like he really is. He stands out. And like he says he wants to be called a jobber. Like 100%. He wants to be called a jobber.
When Delirious, I just sent this message to Delirious because he's going to be doing the Impact tapings coming up soon. Cool. And I said, oh, good. Go Jobbers, go. Because one of the earliest TNA appearances he and Matt Seidel did, they worked Abyss, and
Yeah.
they bumped all over the place for him so well. And it was so much fun because even Matt got elevated like 900 feet above, like Abyss pushed him up.
Yeah.
It was way up in the air, and they literally got a "Go Jobbers Go" chant. And so that's always been a big deal for Matt Seidel, Delirious, and me is the "Go Jobbers Go."
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, and that's like, I mean, like that's where everything I've ever made in this like industry, like any kind of reputation of being talented, is because I sell like a jobber, and like I take that as a
No,
huge like.
you were at the you don't have the long hair now, unfortunately.
Well,
But
I don't. I looked like a jobber, an old
you were
jobber.
one of the people I referred to as a long hair cell monkey. And
Yeah.
and there have been great long hair cell monkeys. Ricky Morton is the godfather.
Mhm.
And in my life, Jimmy Rave was my first one. Jeremy V was my second one. Air Paris was sort of in there. But it's long hair cell monkey will always get over.
It is. It is. Well, it gives somebody to somebody because there's always one person in the crowd who enjoys watching that person get beat up, and then there's also. Well, I mean, it's also the kids that are like excited.
Business in the purest sense. Purest sense is, and it works best with attractive people, obviously. But if you're a decent looking person, long hair helps.
Yeah.
And if you take an ass kicking but you don't give up, you're alive.
Yeah.
And you're able to show that you want to come back. It's literally the greatest thing that happened to us.
Yeah.
Ricky Morton used to piss off heels because he was so good at selling that in the old days when the crowd was less controlled,
yeah,
and people were getting knifed periodically, he would get the crowd so fired up, the heel would be in the ring going, "Would you fucking stop this and do a comeback? Please stop."
I have to get out of the ring. I have to get out of the ring here in a second. Yeah.
If Ricky didn't stop, literally in some towns, Louisiana in particular, if you try to get back to the locker room, you might well get stabbed.
Yeah.
I mean, there are so many. Cornette loves to tell stories about how many times they fought back to the locker room.
And it used to be a thing. And Boaz, I mean, it ended. Alabama ends about 10 years, like bad decision making ends about 10 years too late. And fans stabbing at people, like right when I started, there had been like somebody pulling a knife on one of my buddies at the time who was already wrestling. And like that's the kind of heat that happened back then in those small towns that had even okay baby faces, because people die for it. I don't know, everybody wants to be a heel in this kind of like industry right now, but like, man, that baby face. Like I always tell people, like
being a heel is easy.
Yeah.
Because the key is without somebody to care about, there is no conflict. Therefore, there is no story. Therefore, wrestling can't perform. If you're just doing a bunch of spots and it's one of those kind of deals, it's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But it isn't the art form. The art form is not the pyrotechnics. The art form is the emotion.
Emotion, exactly. It's play. It's an entire play.
Yeah. And if you can't get an audience engaged, then the rest of it, I mean, it's wonderful. If you're a fantastic athlete and flip all over the place, you.
And it allows you to be like, that's where your improbability, like being a good wrestler, you have to improv your and like athleticism is really key. And like, that's where it saved me. Sure, my blonde hair and halfway decent abs were super helpful in getting me there. But my athleticism at my younger ages allowed me to make improv decisions that might have been better that I improv them than if I called them or whatever.
Wrestling is an improv art form, and a unique one. And I wish it had greater respect for as an art form as opposed to a mainstream audience thing, because the GA that's associated with wrestling has taken over at some level.
Well, it's such an unachievable task. It's such an unachievable task. Like, it's so hard to fight that. Like, it is an art. Why can't it be treated like an art? I mean, if you gave this much credential to any independent like concert, if like that was your concert numbers, man, that'd be a good concert. Like, musicians, like especially for like live music and stuff like that. Like that's very good.
Yeah. Well, the key to this particular art form is the establishment of characters, create a reason for them to interact, and deliver a payoff. And if you're doing it well, create an arc, give them something to do. And the negative the business has right now is there's a tendency to rush things because the audience has a really bad attention span. The newest audience to any
Was
form
that
of
is
media.
that the new audience or was that
Yeah,
my
no, the new
generation
audience right
audience?
now is a 5 minute audience. So
Okay.
you're dealing with, and it's not just kids, it's developing into the people in their 20s where literally they are more engaged with things that are brief as opposed to things with substance. So the longer things are, the more difficult it is to get people engaged at a high level because most people get bored quickly, even, and it's tougher to get them engaged. So you have to figure out how to bring them in and also play to the way the media is gone now, the way the marketplace is gone now, which is into short bites.
Okay.
So,
So I want to talk a little bit because like I'm a big music guy, you're a big music guy. I'm a big live music guy. I love live music, man. We've talked about Billy Joel, like Billy Joel's an unbelievable live musician, all that other stuff. So like whenever you see live musicians perform, they'll do their entire set list. Like if and especially something that's not recorded, but whenever you see them go on shows, they're only doing a song. Like they're only doing a song. Is that like why do those not rules not apply whenever it comes to television with wrestling? Because I feel like that if that's the answer, then give them what they want. Give people
well,
the
yeah, at the same time, you have to figure out what that song should be, and it's the same thing with, performer coming in and doing a match. It's which song is it? Because if you're using the analogy to music, um, hopefully range
yeah.
to the artist. Using Billy Joel as the example, he was relatively consistent in terms of the flow of his music and the way he structured his stuff. But he had a combination of things.
Mm-hmm.
He'd be able to do stuff that had a lot of layers and went on forever, like Captain Jack, or he'd do, the standard barroom thing with Piano Man, or eventually he'd move into more standard schlocky rock and rolly shit. He'd be able to. It depends what the audience wants at the time, and a little bit of that is true in wrestling too. I mean, there was never really a pure back in the day, even for wrestling, and the fact that wrestling in its early days was able to suspend disbelief easier doesn't mean it still doesn't happen. You've been involved in it.
Mm-hmm.
You've been around situations at small shows where those 200 people
The
believed
energy.
what you
The
were doing
energy. Yeah.
was happening and was real
The
in
energy
that
feels
moment.
like 1,000 people. The energy is the
Yeah, yeah,
feeling
yeah.
of a
But the
thousand
key
people,
is
but
they're
it's
willing to believe in the moment.
exactly, exactly, and that's what I mean. It's like they're unfortunately he's never gonna listen to this either. Stupid always said that it felt like the energy of the room would like literally pump him up, and it was like okay, well that kind of makes sense, and that's why he always did that. And it was so basic, but it's true, and it's like it's forgotten a lot of times. Sometimes, like even because so many people are nervous, maybe because like that nervous moment, man. It's a moment because I mean, from experience, once you go out there and nobody knows who the hell you are, man. That kind of hits you and your heart drops and you're like, oh man, this is gonna be. I'm really this is all my nerves hit me really hard
And
until
actually, those moments, in terms of me trying to help somebody, are always good moments
yeah.
because if you can go out and engage the crowd
Hmm.
and do it in the right way, a mistake that almost everybody makes in wrestling is trying too hard
Yep.
as opposed to performing. And that's different. If you're trying too hard, you're going out, you're slapping hands around ringside, you're in the ring, come on, whatever
Yeah.
town.
Yep.
You're doing all
Yep.
that stuff that in no way is branding you and in no way is making them get engaged. Or you don't do all that shit and you go out and you allow, if let's say your baby face working with a good heel or at least a heel, let that heel take you down, find a way to show fire, find a way to show heart. And if you're going over and under, it doesn't matter. Just make sure the crowd understands, okay, who am I in this moment? Why do you give a fuck?
Yeah.
And if you can't do that in the ring, then you're doomed anyway. You can't, you'll never get over just by talking.
Yeah.
And you either have to get over on your so uniquely different. Like Ultimate Warrior was a terrible wrestler.
Yeah.
But he got to the ring so well and he looked good that he was going to be a star. Those are the exceptions. They're not the rule.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can't, not everybody can be Barry Bonds and hit, 100 million home runs, even with a little bit of help. I mean, even with no help, not everybody's going to be Babe Ruth, Shohei Ohtani. Nobody's going
to. The steroid thing makes no sense. You still got to hit the fucking ball.
I mean, you've got to see it, and like that's.
No, you still got to see the ball. You got to hit the ball, and steroids don't help that. Steroids just provide a little more strength, maybe.
I wholeheartedly agree, and that's a whole topic.
Bill, and steroids hurt more than help in the long run.
Oh
so
my God.
It's like not even a good thing.
Yeah. It's hard to say. It's probably most people would say it's not worth it long term, but it's definitely one of those situations that, like, if you want to be successful and go further than what normal people go and like really push yourself, it's 100% necessary in any business. Like that's just the way it is.
I disagree. I think that, and it's the way I transitioned some of my primary clients, is please don't do them to try to get there. Use them as a way to get well if you need it. And the one thing steroids can do is, if you're hurt in various ways, it can accelerate your rehab, particularly when you're working a lot. And wrestling is one of those. If you're getting well paid, you're working frequently.
Yeah. That's you're either working frequently or you're not getting paid.
Come in and help.
Yeah.
If you're doing them simply to get bigger, you're also going to get hurt.
Yeah.
As a given, if all you do is get bigger on steroids, you will get hurt.
Yep. Agreed wholeheartedly. And there's been a lot of people who've shown that, not in just wrestling business, all over the world.
I always analogize it and try to explain to the guys, if you enhance your muscle growth beyond the ability of your support system, it's the equivalent of putting up a building with aluminum nails. You're going to tear a bicep, fuck up a shoulder. And if you look at all the injuries that steroid guys have, they're all connective tissue.
Yeah. And it's always like, injuries are, and a lot of people understand injuries, especially the older, and we'll talk about this on the other side. Actually, I'm about to go to commercial, but like knowledge from even whenever I first started into now is just crazy different, but we'll talk about that on the other side. So we're going to come back right after this, Bill. If you don't mind waiting through this commercial, it's like 3 minutes long. You can get up and do whatever you need to do and stretch your legs. Be back in 3 minutes and we'll talk more. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Are you looking to have a good time? Well, head on down to Happy Hour Comedy Club and Restaurant in Anniston, Alabama. Shoot you some pool, play you some darts, or head on over to the bar, get you a cold beer or one of them fancy cocktail drinks. They got all that. You hungry? Get you one of the best pizzas in Anniston or anything else off the menu. They got burgers, tacos, chicken wings, anything you want. Every Thursday night, they got open mic comedy and karaoke, and live comedy every Friday and Saturday night with some of the top comedians from across the United States. Go to happyhourcomedyclub.com for more information and tell them Whitey Jenkins sent you.
Hey guys, this is Wolfie D from PG-13. Check out my podcast, Live and in Color with Wolfie D, every Monday at noon. We're talking Memphis, we're talking ECW, WCW, WWF, everywhere that I've been. We even have some great guests, some Hall of Famers on the show with us. Every Monday at noon, Live and in Color with Wolfie D.
You like barbecue? Well, of course you do, unless you're some kind of weirdo or wasn't raised right. So if you want to get some of the best barbecue around, check out P3 Barbecue. Our buddy David Estes does it up right, and he'll be glad to cater your next event or just send you some of his award-winning sauce right there to your own doorstep. Go over and check them out on the Facebooks at facebook.com/P3Barbecue, or give old David a call at 901-679-3452 and tell him Whitey Jenkins sent you.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Give Me Back My Pro Wrestling, the podcast that's based on the old school, but can still help you find the good stuff from today. Dangerous Dan Colley, the Professor Jimmy Street, and the Plastic Sheik Jarrett are the undisputed six-man tag team champions of the wrestling podcast world. From thought-provoking topics to superstar interviews to action figure expertise, this trio does it all. And all they ask is, give me back my pro wrestling! Every other Thursday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
Get ready to get inspired. It's Zanders Inspirational Podcast, the brand new podcast with Upbeat Zanders, as he has one-on-one podcast sessions that both inspire and inform. Check it out as Zanders has a one-on-one interview with some of your favorite people in and out of the professional wrestling business. Give it a listen on GPTVLive.com. It's the Old School Dives Pro Wrestling Podcast with Shane Knowles and Gene Jackson. Every episode, they will take a deep dive into old school professional wrestling. Pro wrestlers, events, all sorts of great topics will be covered every 2 weeks right here on Old School Dives. You can find it at GPTVLive.com and at YouTube.com/Cheap Heat TV. It's Old School Dives with Shane Knowles and Gene Jackson.
Oh, we won't. Hey, we'll edit that. We'll definitely edit that one in post. Probably not. We'll probably just put it up exactly the way it is. And we are back with Bill Behrens. Bill, I am unbelievably not talented at editing all this, but as you can see, my co-host Gene Jackson does a great job with the commercial stuff.
Yeah, no, it looked fine.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. We kind of play around with it. We had Marv. Unfortunately, your guy Mike Posey bailed on us, and I'll throw down with P-Dog whenever he wants to handle that business. But you've got
he probably got busy.
He's a busy dyke. That's another one. Like, he's a weird busy. He's one of the weirder busy guys. Like, Gene was like, I tried having a conversation. Like, we had a podcast one time, and he didn't say that much. But yeah, he's not much of a talker. He's more of a doer. A lot of.
Very much so. Yeah,
yeah, unbelievably nice guy. I mean, but
he gets to be called my favorite person because Griff Garrison and Marcus Cross, who I'm helping now, are my latest project.
Yeah.
Said one time, "Are we your favorite people?" And I said, "No, it's probably Michael."
Mike Posey. No, I mean, I get it. He's one of those guys that when you see him walk in the thing, you immediately know your day A is going to get better and easier B. Always. It's crazy. Like it's a fun. I mean, shout out to Posey. I actually hope he listens to this. That would be nice. But okay. So you talked about Griff and Cross. You're pretty entangled, and when it comes to like being an agent, you're pretty damn good at it because you've agented a lot of really good guys. As a manager, you're pretty successful at it. I mean, where are these kids at? Because they're still. I still consider them kids. I know they've been doing it forever, but they're still great.
Griffey's signed. He's got a 5-year deal.
Yeah.
Year 2 was optioned. He's getting paid.
Cool.
Marcus.
I know he got hurt.
I know he did. I've been seeing him
do that. Yep, I've been seeing Marcus been doing a lot of dark and doing. Yep. I actually saw.
And I still have them doing Master Machine on the Indies. They wrestled FTR with Mick Foley. I got to play in that match. They wrestled the Rock and Roll. They wrestled the Hardys.
Yeah.
Before Jeff had his issues.
Yeah, we won't get into that one. We will gladly not get into that whole issue. But no, they're very successful. I mean, it's one of those things, and I'll also say this, and like we'll talk about them some more if you want to, but I'll say this easily: walking in and saying, "Hey, I know Bill. You know Bill Behrens, especially in the Southeast Georgia scene. Oh my God, like that's easy. Even Tennessee, like it's now especially, but." Big shows, you walk in there, you're pretty over if you know Bill Behrens.
Well, that's cool. And yet I have weird heat with people, and I never know why.
It's one of those things.
Honestly,
Bill.
I have never deliberately tried to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Even when I was, doing Wildside and stuff where I was the total decision maker, it was rare that I blackballed anybody in my brain. I mean, and blackballed is a word. It just means, okay, I'm not going to use this person
Not
anymore.
ever. Yeah.
There really are
This
only 2
person
or
should
3
not be
times
used.
that ever happened.
Yeah.
Literally only 2 or 3 times. And I've worked with hundreds at least, maybe thousands of people.
Yeah. Who was the, okay, wait, can you give me the hottest head you've ever worked with?
It's not hottest, it's stupid.
Okay. Okay, stupidest. Give me stupidest.
Like there was a kid who went his biohazard, who's apologized to me, but he was constantly fucking up. It was just so many times.
How many times have you had to sit somebody? What was the worst you had to sit somebody down and be like, okay, that was dumb? What was the worst?
Well, I know I do that a lot.
Yeah, I know that. What was the worst?
The worst? I don't know. I mean, I've dealt with, New Jack was one of my good friends. So I've dealt with it. Okay, this would be probably the example, but it's not exactly the answer.
Okay.
New Jack broke a rule I never knew could be broken, at least if in terms of when you present the rule. Yeah. I had a rule. New Jack lived with me for a period of time in my condo when he was between stuff.
Yeah.
And he spent most of the day being wonderful and playing video games.
Okay.
And I gave him one rule, which was he could not do crack.
Okay.
And he broke the no crack rule.
Okay.
I came home one day and I spelled something I don't know. And I went, okay. And I walk out and see him with the pipe and I go, Jack. And he looks at me and he's like a puppy at that point.
Yeah.
And I go, all right, you broke the no crack rule. I'm taking you somewhere. Where am I taking you tomorrow? And, that literally that was the truth.
Yeah.
But I've done that with a lot of people. Like New Jack is one of the people I cared about more than Luke Hawks is somebody I cared about. And I made him go home to Louisiana because he wouldn't go to the gym in Atlanta when I was trying to get him hired by WWE.
Yeah.
So I sent him home.
Yeah.
And then he taught me a lesson by becoming the guy with the big effing arms.
Well, and that's necessary. Like I always I've got friends who were athletes in high school, and like whenever they first get into it, they kind of talk to me about it. And I generally see athletes within the wrestling business, and I'm shocked by it at this point. So I gravitate to them and talk to them a little bit more. And they always like, okay, well, what do you have to do? Well, you've got to be in shape. I don't care if you can talk, can't talk, who gives a shit. You do have to be in shape. You have to be in a shape that looks like you can fight. That's it. That's the answer.
Well, or you have to have a shape that fits whatever you're trying to do.
Who would be in a fight? How about who would be in a fight?
Whenever I've done seminars, the one thing I almost always end up saying, even if I don't plan it, is somebody will ask the question, what do I need to do to be a star? And you'll look at that person, and almost without exception, I hate to say, it's never somebody that's going to be a star.
Yeah.
It's always somebody that is a big piece of toast.
Yeah.
So you look at that person and, they usually have a t-shirt on. They usually have a body that nobody wants. And I always say, what do you see when you look in a mirror? Do you see somebody you see on TV? Or are you looking in some kind of freaking clown mirror where you see skinny when it's fat or muscles when it's not? How are you doing this? Because that's the answer to your question. How do I make it? Well, if you look like crap and you're selling that you look like crap in the way you present yourself, then you don't have a chance in hell. And so you've answered your own question when you ask the question.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think like I ask you whenever I start new adventures, I always kind of ask you for advice about stuff. And I asked you one time about a faction stuff, and we're going to talk about, I think it's this upcoming podcast. We're going to do the live show about who's your top 5 favorite factions. And I have no idea who I'm going to choose. So don't ask me yet. I'll know by Sunday for sure. But like you always say, find your lane. And like, that's a lot of guys' problems is their lack of success is because they don't find their lane. And it's astounding to me. It's like they see themselves in the mindset of, hey, I look like a legit dude who can legit fight, and that might not just be the case. Like, I mean,
Wrestling is an art form. You
yeah,
have to, yeah, it's not. If you want to be a badass, legit, there are mechanisms that you can go into the MMA
yeah,
and you can try to be badass. You can
yeah,
box and try to be a badass. You can go into aggressive mud wrestling.
yeah,
What the F? You
yeah,
can do any of this shit. It's fine.
yeah.
But if
It's
you're going to be a wrestler, you are by definition a performer
yeah,
and get over yourself. And you have to figure out how do you perform to become a star.
yeah,
And once you become a star and once everybody's kissing your ass, then you can, do better.
yeah,
But until you get to that point, it's who am I and why does anybody give a fuck?
yeah,
That's wrestling. And it's the same thing in any form of entertainment. If you're a performer, if you're playing music, who am I? Does anybody want to hear my songs?
Yep.
If you're a comedian, am I funny?
Yep.
If you're an actor, does this TV show suck? It's the same thing.
Yep.
And that's one of the areas where some people get into wrestling and just really just don't get it. It literally is just they don't get it.
Yeah.
They
Oh.
believe that they're owed something rather than having to perform to the level that people want to give them something.
Yeah, I completely understand it, and it kind of like, and you see it more even in acting. It's crazy that I see it more in acting and like even comedians and definitely musicians. Like they find the people who suit them the best and like make put a bright light on the talents that you have, and then they start traveling together and start showing that off. But like a lot of times with wrestlers, they find people who make them feel comfortable. They don't find people that make them better. And it's just it blows my mind. And then
Well,
ask why I'm not successful.
Most people aren't really serious about making a living in wrestling. They're
Agreed.
playing with themselves and they're just going in to have fun on the weekend. They're there. And that's one of the challenges of my limited impact in this business is I have to try best I can to identify the people I think can actually do more.
Yeah.
And then it's up to them. I can only keep saying, okay, I'm going to give you this opportunity, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you have to figure out if that's what you want to do. Because there's no guarantee that, and this is where a lot of kids coming into any form of entertainment, if I do this, they're going to love me and it's all going to be great. No, it may not be.
It might not
the
be.
spot may not allow you to do that.
May not even give you an opportunity. Absolutely. Because
so
I mean,
you have to figure out how do I do the best I can in that moment.
Yep.
And make sure that the next time they're thinking about somebody to do that spot. Now, if you're not willing to do those progressive things, if all you want to do is go play at a show and perform in front of that crowd, there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
But you need to then understand that don't assume you are a star, nor that you're actively in the business.
Or you should even be taking
in my mind, there's a big difference about being a professional wrestler and a hobbyist.
Agreed.
And there are only so many people that are truly professional wrestlers, and those are the people that are trying to get beyond where they are.
Agreed wholeheartedly. And that's I don't think people are as honest with themselves, and that's really unfortunate because like I've started, I mean, for right now where my life is, I'm doing it as more of a hobbyist. It's just not, I'm still young enough. I can change my mind.
Yeah. I always thought, and you're an example in a good way of the whole thing. I believed you to be talented and believe you can be whenever you want to be, but for a variety of reasons, you've always had life distractions. Yeah, you've had life distractions.
Yeah.
But in the moment, and whenever I could, I would then give you, go do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, just you never know.
And you always, and it was always unbelievably helpful, and actually was like at every opportunity, like everything you've ever asked me to do and tell me to do and like it suggests for me to do has always made it easier for me to do the one thing that kind of is difficult for me, which is cut a single promo, like just to be in front of a camera. Like I could do it a little bit better, but that's because I've got comfortable with myself because you didn't give me a choice. Like I was just comfortable. Like I didn't. Well, I got put in an uncomfortable situation.
You had to either embrace or defeat your accent,
yeah,
and you had to figure out how to work around it and talk naturally.
Yeah, and I have. Unfortunately, my voice is unbelievably raspy, and I don't enjoy listening to it. But I have just decided it's just going to be.
You're fine. No, your voice sounded good. You've never had a problem with that.
I appreciate it. But okay, so I appreciate it being considered a good example of a Bill Behrens guys not listening to him to be successful. Now, like, what about?
Well, no, you just.
Well, no, I mean,
again, you had to decide at some point, like everyone with talent, do I really want to chase it, and can I? And the first is the easier. The second is the hardest.
Yep.
Which is, what else is going on in my life at the time?
Yep.
What else have I gotten myself into? It could be a relationship, could be a job. It could be any number of things when you're young. So ends up being the challenge. I mean, go to AJ's career.
Yeah.
He turned down WWE because he had just, after the WCW contract, where he wasn't paid a lot of money, but he was, $750 a week. It wasn't a lot of money.
Right.
So, but he had decided to get a house with his then new wife. Was he going to go to Heartland Championship Wrestling in the first offer they gave him? Well, that meant he'd had to relocate to Cincinnati. Well, no. Mm-hmm. So he has to go, I want to chase this, but.
Yeah.
And then but he kept going. And clearly, it finally led to a really good thing for him. But it was one of those, he had these opportunities, but then he had to weigh it against all of the other stuff. And not everybody can weigh everything against the other stuff and keep running up the treadmill.
Yeah. And so of course I'm going to press Tom with this question because I enjoy listening to these stories, and I can remember being in the living room watching these events happen and like all these moments. How crazy was the lead up to the AJ Styles actual contract, and like it being I know it was official, like happening, but like I understand secret, but like how was there any kind of moments they were like, okay, maybe this won't happen, maybe this is going to happen in a different way? Like, how crazy was that? Were you involved in that?
No, I did all of it.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But the reality was he had signed a letter of intent, for want of a better word, with Impact, with Dixie, in a meeting that I wasn't at.
Okay.
And he'd done it with Gallows and Anderson.
Okay.
Because he wanted to help them too. And it was a good deal. Nothing wrong with it money-wise. Mm-hmm. But at the time, the negotiation was dishonest on TNA's side because they had no money. And this led into the Billy Corgan stuff that led into lawsuits that led into a bunch of shit.
Yeah.
But again, we didn't know that was the problem. I just knew that they weren't where AJ needed to be.
Well, it seemed shady, and even at that time, because I can remember that time. Like I saw it before that and after and kind of during, but like even like you could see it. And I'm not going to disparage any other company's names, but like you could see it, and you could see it in a lot of companies whenever the money was slowly bleeding out. You could see it. I mean, you could see it during TNA.
And Dixie was running as fast as she could because her dad was only willing to continue to put so much more money in. She needed to find other money, and she had made a huge mistake years before. But regardless, with Alan, he wanted to end his career with TNA. That was his goal. And he knew I didn't agree with him necessarily. And but he did this tentative deal. And then I got with Big at the time, John Gabernick, who happened to be in charge and had no idea what he was doing. And I got with him, and I went through all the terms of what we were willing to do. And he was supposed to send me a contract that had all that stuff in it. And when he sent the contract, none of it was in it. Literally none of it. And I got with him and said, hey, John, contract, none of it. And he went, "Oh, I didn't read the contract." And I go, "Fuck, you have no idea what you're doing." And at that point, I called Alan. It was Christmas Eve, whatever the year was, and I'm literally at my mom's with family, trying to redline a contract to get it fixed, realizing that I have to rewrite this entire contract to get it fixed.
Yeah.
And I told Alan, and it happened. He was able to interact with Triple H, and Triple H said, "Yeah, we have some interest." And we ended up doing a deal and protected his trademark. And he went there. And I did the first 3-year deal, and he's done the rest after that.
Yeah, it's crazy because like people, I don't.
But
I don't
TNA fucked up. If TNA hadn't
did.
fucked up, he would have gone there.
They did, and that's crazy because that would have changed the whole landscape. Because he was, I mean, he wasn't kind of a big free agent. He's a huge free agent. He's huge.
The key is, and this is again goes back to developing talent, is when TNA was done, he was going to go back to TNA at the time WWE hired him, but we had 2 years in between where he was recreated as an international star. He was with Ring of Honor, he was with New Japan, and he was on Indies, and he was the biggest guy in the business.
All on his own. He did that on his own. Like
yes,
it was.
Well, that's what we did. That we had to recreate
y'all's game plan. Yeah,
and nobody, literally no one that booked him ever promoted him based on his TNA history. And it's amazing because he's the most decorated champion in the history of the company. But literally no one, when he was doing our indie stuff for the 2 years before WWE, no one ever promoted him as TNA guy.
Well, I mean, is it just because I don't know if it was seeing the writing on the wall. Like, was it just stupidity?
No. It's simply that, and TNA ruined the branding they had done.
It's crazy,
and nobody cared that he had been there, even though he was the best thing they had ever done. It's the biggest mistake Dixie made was she didn't trust what Jeff had done.
Yeah.
In building people that were branded specifically to TNA.
Yep. That exhibition was crazy.
And AJ was the golden boy of that. And as soon as Jeff went home in 2008 and Dixie came in 2009 on her own, with Vince sort of helping, and brought Hogan and Bischoff in, and I help Bischoff now, so I like Eric, but it was the biggest mistake they made because Dixie immediately told the audience in 2009 that everything they had done before that didn't matter, and that bigger stars were these guys.
Yeah,
and AEW is doing a little of that now.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
They're abandoning the people they started with, and they're embracing cast-offs at some level.
Yeah, and it's I mean, it's one of those things where
which I think is a mistake, but you know.
Well, I mean, I was going to say it's because those guys who have the brands behind them also, just like you just said with AJ, that name is synonymous with AEW. It's not synonymous with anybody else. Nobody's going to type in Google, WWE Sammy Guevara. Nobody's going to type that in. Everybody, it's got to be AEW every time, and then you're going to see more stuff, and maybe you'll chase that rabbit. And
like, fortunately, there are a few people AEW's branded they're sticking with, but I think when you and no disrespect to any of the people because I like them all, but anytime you bring in Bryan Danielson, Punk, and a diversity, and literally so many people coming out, all of whom were established as characters within WWE, you're not growing your product, you're borrowing. You're saying, okay, we're going to take this guy that was over and we're literally going to move them.
Yeah.
And do the same exact thing.
I
think at that point you're not growing your product. But
well, okay. So when
Tony Khan's a billionaire, you can do it.
I was about to say, and I like. By the way, every podcast, I always put him over on mine, and I know to God he's not listening to it. But like Tony Khan seems like a very smart and intelligent man when it comes to his money, and like he has that much money and he seems intelligent. He's enthusiastic and like puts way more effort into any of it than me and you and everyone in the planet combined. It's crazy. That dude seems intense
he's
about
a
it.
hardworking young man,
Yes.
and his only problem is he only knows what he knows, and
Yeah.
that's not being mean. It's just you can't have context. Let me back up and always use me as an example. Out of nowhere, when I was at USWA in 1995, Larry Burton, who had bought the company with Lawler from Jerry Jarrett, called me and said, I'm going to send you the script that Mike Samples has done. I want you to rebook it. And I went, really? And he goes, yes. And I go, well, I've never done that. And he goes, it doesn't matter. We think you can do it. And so I was booking USWA in 1995 for a brief period of time. Then Dutch Mantell came in.
Yeah.
And Dutch Mantell sat down with me and we were booking. And he was in charge, thank God. But he's a guy that was trained by Eddie Graham, much like Dusty Rhodes was, much like Jerry Jarrett was. People, and booking is an art form as part of our greater art form.
Yeah.
And so I was able to go, oh, okay. Thank you. And I had the ability to learn from somebody who knew that we're doing. Tony does not. Tony has that ability because he has some people there he could learn from, but he's not necessarily paying attention.
Well,
now,
it's
the only encouraging thing is one of the people I've worked with for a long time, Sanjay Dutt, is involved.
Good.
And honestly, Chris Daniels and Jerry Lynn. And all these people I've been around for a long time
that have been successful without much help.
Yeah, and I think if he's smart, they're enough in his peer group that he'll pay attention. I don't think he's necessarily going to pay attention to the previous generation, the Arn Andersons, the Tully Blanchards,
Well, I mean, he's got that's always been my one thing with Colin is like he's got his hand in a lot of pots. Like like he's a hardworking dude, but man, even for a hardworking dude, that dude does so much stuff.
Like, I have no idea how he's doing it without a major cocaine habit. So.
Well, I'm not going to put that speculation out there, Bill.
No, I'm just saying
we're not going to aggregate
when you're running that fast, and I mean, he's still involved in the draft for the Jaguars.
It's crazy. It's bananas. That guy is moving.
Like, I mean, I used to have 5 jobs, and I was able to do it when I was young, so I get it. But he's doing it at a way higher money level than I was.
Man, I love living. That's my favorite thing to do. I'll always say that. But just working so hard is so difficult for me to wrap my brain around. I'm enjoying my life exactly, which is sitting here talking to you. I know it. Maybe this is supposed to be work. Maybe this is considered work. I'll consider it work for right now. But it's been a pleasure. It's been a fun job at least today.
Well, good. Hopefully I haven't screwed up too bad.
No, this has been you whenever we were messaging back and forth, and I don't know, I don't have necessarily a hard ending for this, so maybe we'll cut all this out and post edit. Probably not. I'm really lazy when it comes to these, but like you kind of like, we'll see if this is going to be good. Oh, it's perfect. This is going to be awesome. We were not over. We were not super long-winded. Everything I talked about, I had a great time. I really did. I appreciate it, Bill. I hope
you're a good kid.
Well, I appreciate it. Hopefully you had enough fun, because Marv said that he was coming back on here, and sure, he was just blowing smoke to make us feel better. But like, I'm sure Gene, and I don't know how, I'm sure you didn't watch much of the commercial, but the great Shane Knowles and Gene Jackson do old school dives where they talk about older wrestlers. And who are they doing? Oh man, Gene's gonna be so mad at me whenever he listens to this, because I'm not gonna know who he's doing this week. Is it Jesse Ventura? Did he do Jesse Ventura? Either way, so he's doing them, and I'm sure he'll put a great graphic up here and just cut all this. But
I never met Jesse. There's so many. There are very few of the guys that you'd think I might have met that I always look back and go, who have I not met that I should have met?
It's one of those. Yeah.
Jesse's one of those guys. I've never met Jesse.
I'm going to be like that much later in my days, I'm sure.
I was around Roddy Piper numerous times.
Okay, so here's what we'll do. If you don't mind this, and I'll suggest this to Gene, and I'm sure I can coax him in it. If you want to if they do an old school dives on Roddy Piper, can you come in and do that one? It won't be longer than an hour. It might be late at night.
I don't have a lot. Oh shit, that reminded me. Thank you. I have to return a phone call. I forgot. Roddy's daughter contacted me, and I've totally forgot to call her back.
Breaking news. He's talking to Rod. He's helping the agent
No,
of the stars.
That's actually bad of me, because she called me yesterday and left a message, and I totally forgot to call her today because I was doing the AW thing.
Well, that's how we're. I mean, that's how we'll promote all this. I'll let you go, and we'll let you make your phone calls. My inspiration.
Oh no, I'm not going to call her tonight. I'll call her in the morning.
Okay. Well, I was going to say my inspiration is I encouraged you to work harder at your job and go past the.
No, you reminded me. I forgot to call freaking Roddy Piper's daughter, and AJ had actually sent her to me. So that's like, it's like mean.
You're welcome. If anything, I'm hoping for a bird dog fee for reminding you, or flowers on Secretary Day.
Okay, we'll try.
Okay. All right, Bill. Well, once again, I appreciate you coming on. I'm actually going to take this thing off live, and then I want to talk to you privately. So don't just jump off here, okay?
All right, fine.
All right. Hang on. I cut you off early. Say bye to the audience, Bill.
Goodbye to the audience.
Thank you, Bill. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was super easy. I appreciate everybody being on here. I'm going to do an outro, which is just going to be our quick music in the background. If you don't have it, we're on Facebook, YouTube, all that other stuff. And Sunday night, we'll be back on here at 6 p.m. Central Time. We'll talk to you soon, guys. Bye.